All right, guys. Hi to the actual Winfield show. I'm Jasmine Jones, your FFA state treasurer, and
Hi, I'm Breck Vincent. I'm your state vice president representing Area 1.
this is our little guest from Area 1 today. We're doing a workshop together, and so we decided we might as well just film some content because that's what's fun. And so we are contemplating the philosophical question: is state office what you thought it was going to be, Breck? Yes or no, and tell us why.
So, I have to say yes in some aspects, no in others. I think the first thing I thought about state office, like that was more of a surprise to me, was I really thought that it was going to be a whole lot more stressful than what it was. Like I felt like I was just going to be this. Like I felt like it was going to be very stressful, and it has been stressful to an extent, but not like I thought it was. And it's a whole lot relaxing, and it's a whole lot more rewarding than I also expected it to be. I mean, it was one of those deals that going into it, I was very excited, but I didn't know, and it was very uncharted waters. But I believe it's everything you could ask it to be and more. What do you think?
I agree a lot with you. I thought it was gonna be like not more like it has been stressful. You're right, there have been stressful moments. I thought it was gonna be a lot more taxing. I thought the grunt work, there was gonna be a lot more grunt work in what we did. And we do complete a lot of work as state officers. That's just part of our job. But it's broken up into very manageable chunks. So for example, we're actually doing state convention prep right now, and I thought it would be like a lot of stuff at once and like you have to do all this and you do have to do all of that, but like some this deadline is here, this deadline is here, and it's very manageable deadlines. So maybe your good luck candidate part is due March 1st. Your parent and advisor part is due March 5th. And these are things that are like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, 5 minutes here. You know, you have an entire weekend with a team and Miss Laura to talk about your RA and just write the rough draft to your RA. And so it is a lot of work, but they train you very well for the work that you do, and it's also very manageable. It's a lot more, I guess, doable than I thought it would be. And also one of the things was kind of like what surprised me was like the persona of state officers. So I always in my FFA career before this, I put state officers up on a pedestal and I was like, "Oh, well that person's a state officer. That person was a state officer." A lot of people in my community were actually past state officers, and I kind of put them on a pedestal. And being a state officer is cool, and you go through a bunch of cool stuff, but it's not the, I guess, like it's not like you're not better than anyone. And I never thought that I would be better than anyone going into state office, but I always thought the state officers were better than me. And that has never been the case. Us as state officers, we're literally just your peers who wanted to serve people on a much bigger basis. We want to serve people on a much larger scale, and that's literally all that state office is. Like leadership positions,
Mhm.
and like for example, if I go and I take a leadership position at the mill, then I have say over you. Then I get paid more than you. Leadership positions in FFA are a little bit different in the sense that your leader isn't necessarily telling you what to do, although we are hopefully leading by example, leading by all these things. Hopefully you do the things that we do because we're trained to, have a good persona and have a spirit of service. However, we're not like over you. Like that's not how it is in FFA. It's literally leadership is just a bigger scale of servitude.
Well, and it leads into the aspect of FFAs for everyone. Anyone
Mhm.
can lead an FFA. You
Mhm.
don't have to be a great speaker. You don't have to do a bunch of community service projects. But what it boils down to is what can you do? How can you do it? I think a lot of that reminds me of the delegate process at national convention. We both experienced that in the same room, and that was like, you talk about work. That's one of the main things as state officers we do is be a voting delegate at nationals to help shape the national association, and it is rewarding. But like you said, some of that grunt work, and I did too. I thought we were going to be, setting things up. We'd spend
Mhm.
hours upon hours a day doing that, but when it's split between 10 people, it helps out a lot. But you talk about circling back to leadership, the opportunities that it grants, the people you get to meet, and the aspects that it opens up. Being able to travel all across the state as a state officer is something I knew that was going to
Mhm.
happen, but I didn't realize what it was going to do,
Yeah.
not only for me, but like the students we get to impact as well. So I truly believe that state office is one of those things that it is what you make it. And I'd believe, you probably believe this as well, that we have made it
Yeah.
anything and everything it could be.
I completely agree. And honestly, state office has given me way more opportunities outside of ag than I ever thought possible. So, for example, we had a really cool tour of the Capitol, and people actually came up and asked me, "Well, why did you go to the Capitol? Why did you talk to representatives if you're just talking about ag? If your organization is just Future Farmers in America, which it's actually not, fun fact." But like I never thought that I would get to go and talk to like political leaders of Louisiana, political representatives of Louisiana as part of FFA. You know, you never think about all the extents to which this organization can bring you. And state office has brought me so many other places than where I thought it would bring me. And you talked about like the leadership. I never thought that people would be coming up to me during chapter visits and being like, "Well, what do you think?" And you're just like, "Well, I mean, like, it's cool." And it's just, you never, until you get into the position, you never truly realize the impact that you yourself can have on other people. I feel like we've both been impacted by previous state officers. I know I certainly have. And I don't think those people grasp truly the gravity of the impact that they had on me. And I think the same thing goes like sometimes we forget that we can have that impact on other people too. And state office has just been kind of like an awakening. Like people are always watching you. People are always doing like, as a leader, people are always looking at you and being like, "Well, what's Breck doing about it? You know, what is this?" Like, I look up to Breck. Breck was nice to me. Like, Breck Breck facilitated a workshop that I really loved one time. And so now, as an FFAer, I'm going to forever look up to you. And I'm forever, whenever we're at state convention, I'm going to look for Breck. I'm
Right.
going to try to talk to Breck. And, you know, you never realize that. You never realize that you can be that person for someone else until you get into a position like this.
Well, and also I think, you talk about that freshman aspect. Like that was one big deal. I sat there after we get elected at state convention. I was like, freshman me probably never
Yes.
thought this was going to happen.
Yes, exactly.
So like, I think it's just one of those deals that we've actually been in those members' shoes. I mean, I can remember my first chapter visit, my freshman year. A state officer from Winfield actually came, and it was one of those deals. I was like, wow, like these people are on this pedestal. We talk about that pedestal of a state officer, and you are to an extent. But what some people don't think about is we are just another member at the end of the
literally.
day. We were that same freshman, some of us sitting in the back of the class, scared to talk, or that bright-eyed freshman ready to do whatever his ag teacher tells them. So I think there's a variety of things that come with state office, but you don't really understand it, and or even appreciate it until it's like a full circle moment. Maybe you made a connection with a member at leadership camp, and then you see them at convention.
Yeah.
And it's like, you impacted me so much. You impacted me to run for area, or you impacted me to run for state office. So I just think it's one of those deals that us as state officers forget sometimes what we can do for the students. But it's the most rewarding thing on planet Earth.
It really is. And you talk about that full circle moment. I met people at leadership camp who reminded me of myself freshman year. And you're like, wow, I literally was this person. I had this person's mindset just a few summers ago. Like last year at leadership camp, I was so insecure. Like I was so scared. I wouldn't even go sit at other people's tables. And so when I became a state officer, I sat with people who didn't go and sit at other people's tables and I met people who are exactly like me when I was a freshman. And that was crazy to me because I've changed so much. And you can show them, and you're like, I was exactly like you, but now I'm here. Like I'm literally you one summer later. Like that's how big of a change you can have. And you're showing yourself that, you're showing the other students that. And then you said something else, but I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, and then one thing I think we haven't hit on yet is there is kind of a confidence boost. Not necessarily like, oh, I'm big, bad state officer now, but more of like I've been selected to represent 13,000 members in the state association.
Like I want to do my job
exactly.
well.
And so you go in there with almost a confidence or a swagger to say, hey, look, like I'm here to do my job and I want to be the best I can be at it. And I see that not only, in public speaking abilities, but just in social instances too. I mean, I remember that first day of the first leadership camp we did. And, I think, what was there, 300 something kids there. And they're all in this lunchroom. And they're like, all right, go sit down and talk to somebody. And
Yeah.
like, even as an area officer, as a freshman, I was scared to do that. But that kind of throw you in the water with the sharks and you either sink or swim. And like, that's one of those deals about state office is sometimes you learn on the fly.
You learn on the fly, literally.
Yeah. I mean, as an extemp speaker, I know how to kind of punch things out fast, but it was just one of those deals that you learn social skills, social cues, and what these members truly believe and what you're doing for these members while you're talking to them. It's just something they're like, wow, a state officer just sat down and came and ate lunch with me. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah. And I've learned like just genuinely like skills for everyday life. I've learned so much of that. I've learned how to interact with so many different personalities. I've learned how to teach big and small groups of people and keep those kids engaged. And young kids, older kids, seniors in high school, we're about to go do a middle school workshop. And then also, I never could have done any type of extemp speaking or anything before I got into state office. But like you said, learning on the fly, I've had to learn how to improv and how to go in. And, you don't really know how to go in and talk about something that you haven't gone over before. You haven't gone over the material. You don't know a lot about it. But state office will teach you how to do that real quick.
Well, and I also think it's almost like we're going through an education course, so to speak. Like, you learn how to, when we're conducting these workshops,
learn so much.
Well, you learn that, but you also learn how to teach people about leadership, about proficiencies, about this and about that. And so I think state officers probably, in the near future and in the past have made some of the best educators on planet Earth, because we stress so much. We're not only here to serve, but we're also here to educate and help. We advocate for agriculture. I feel like every day at this point, somebody's always calling me, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? So I think, the state officer, the leadership portion of it is amazing, but people, I think, sometimes forget about the education portion that we are very involved with.
So it's been really good talking to you, Breck. That was our little segment on state office. So how did you like being on the pod?
It was cool. I mean, I definitely stole the show,
Obviously.
But I'm so happy to be on the famous Winfield podcast. Thank y'all so much.
Yeah, no problem. Bye.
Bye.